Happy Thanksgiving,
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving. I'm so glad that you were able to slide your Thanksgiving turkeys aside and join us for this training.
So we just connecting our mastermind team so that they could be a part of this training as well. So good morning, Sharon. Good morning.
Good morning, Army. Hello, hello. Good morning to you both. Um, let's go ahead and kick things off. And I hope that you have your workbooks in front of you or that you've done your homework so that we can implement some things that are really going to help you get your book done. I'm excited.
Oh yeah. All right. So let's just put the screen up. Right.
Stuff. So it's going to be important for us to do a recap. Hello, Facebook.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy Thanksgiving. My name is Mwali.
And I'm Chantel.
And we are here with the Bestsellers Academy supporting you as you move forward in our forward framework. We have been just deep diving on that free gift that you would have received. If you didn't, you go to tellmystorynow.com, tellmystorynow.com, or you could just reach out to us and we'll send you.
In the chats, yes, go ahead and comment below if you have not received that free gift, and we'll be able to set you up with not only the manual, but also the workbook, so that you can actually move from blank page to published book.
That's right. So we have gone through the first accountability process, because for us it's not just about head knowledge, right? It's about implementation and action.
That's right.
And I know there's some of you who are joining us on Zoom. I want to welcome those who are part of our mastermind group. I see you guys. You guys have slid the turkey aside and decided, hey, my story matters, and it's very, very important that I get it done. So type in the chat, let's get it done. Just type that in the chat. Let's get it done. All right. After the turkey is over and families go back to their respective places, your mission is still alive. And you don't want that mission to become negotiable. It must be non-negotiable.
That's right, Imala, you are saying it. Because listen, our lives are not a holiday, so we have to prepare and be intentional about doing just a little bit that will help us to get to that ultimate goal. So today we're going to share with you the recap of yesterday's session. And we're going to move on to today's session so everyone can get back to their ham, lamb, and jam.
All right, so the first thing we talked about is in the forward framework, how do you begin repurposing content? So most times we think about crafting a story, a message, a book, and we're thinking, I need to start from scratch, all right? That does not necessarily have to be the case. So your homework was to write down 3 places that you have existing content. So it could be a blog, a thesis,
YouTube videos,
diaries,
Facebook. Be very specific about those 3 areas where you feel like you have some really good content.
Yeah, so you might have done a series. Let's begin to graph that information and pull it and document it. And then secondly, we looked at repurposing that content by framing your book title, because your book title is going...
Well, not your book title, but your chapter titles.
Correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. So the names of your series that you did on Facebook Live, or any of the other content that you pull from YouTube, your thesis, your journals, that subject matter will help frame the title of your chapters. So if you did a 5-week devotional about staying on the right track, then the first chapter or one of the chapters of your book can be on how to stay on the right track. So that is exactly how you repurpose existing content to start chipping away at the block of you building the outline of your book. So that's step 1, identify where the content lives. Step 2 is identify what names from that content you can use for the chapters of your book. Now, the third thing that we spoke about, or actually that we're going to dive into today to finish off this book outline framework, will be...
we're talking about not just repurposing the content. Let me just pull this up here. It's going to be
actually using the content to develop the subchapters of your book. So let's use that same example. So if you're following us with your workbook, I want you to go to page number 3. And this is step number 3, page number 3. So you're going to actually select the chapter that you decided on from the previous step, step 2, and you're going to write 5 topics that relate to that chapter. And these 5 topics, Sharon, will be your subchapter. So let's say that your chapter that you took from step 2 is creating a positive mindset. Ask yourself, what all can I teach on that's related to a positive mindset? Maybe it's your diet, so you write that down. Proper nutrition for a proper mind. That's one of your subchapters. Perhaps creating a positive mindset means that you're going to incorporate affirmations in your life. You can incorporate that as your subchapter 2. You see how this is building? So your larger topic becomes and informs the subtopics. And this creates a bridge so that you're never at a need or lacking information because you've done this exhaustive list. So that was only 2. What other things, Sharon and Army, can you talk about that's related to your larger topic of a positive mindset? Perhaps it's getting the right exercise. Well, that's subchapter number 3. Your next topic can be about relationships. How do you surround yourself with a community of positive people that will help create this positive mindset? That is subchapter number 4. Now, your final subchapter is about perhaps how else do you create a positive mindset? Prayer. That can be your subchapter number 5. And you got to understand that as you're building out this outline, you are going to have a clear strategy. So when you sit down with your phone, Army, and you are actually speaking your book, for example, or you are sitting on a conversation, an interview conversation with one of your book coaches. Hi, Ida. She's like, I want more. Speaking of that, if you're sitting on an interview conversation like Ida was a couple of minutes ago with me doing the building out every chapter of her book, she would use a subchapter that she previously identified as wanting to incorporate in her book, or that I would have incorporated, and she would actually speak on that subtopic alone. So in one subchapter in Wale, and I use subchapter and subtopic interchangeably. So in one subtopic alone, you could literally have 3,000 words, which would be 2 pages worth of content.
And you're talking about that chapter. So if someone is, when you use the term subchapter, you're talking about chapters, correct?
We're talking about chapters as our start. Beautiful. And then subchapters is what's going to inform the overall chapter.
The only reason I asked her to repeat, for thorough learners like myself, I know there are others on this live stream. We want to make sure that we have a 360 touch. Now let's reverse a little bit now. Because in the lesson before, when we said, let's identify the subchapters, and it was very, very key, the subchapters come out from the title of your book. Now, Sharon,
from the title of your chapter.
No, from the title of your book. So the title of your book is where you identify what we call the real estate of your audience. Who are the people that you're called to serve? Now, the chapters or the subchapters or the subtitles, all these different terminologies.
I know, right?
All right, because it's because we work with clients internationally, people know things based on their location. So we have European clients who understand things in a British context, and then we have American clients like my wife who understand things right in a very US context, all right? And then you have the Caribbean context like Ida. Ida is from?
St. Martin.
Yes, St. Martin's in the house, right? So there's a lot of contextual language. So I just want to make sure we speak across the board, right? So it's neither right or wrong. So now when you identify the marketplace, all right? Now that you identify the marketplace, it's very, very key that you do what we said, do the Google search. And when you do that Google search, you are going to be identifying the people who you're being called to serve. When you identify the people who you're called to serve, it is done what we call in that DIY generation, right? Do it yourself. So people are going online, they're looking for the the places of their solutions. And always remember that your book is answering a question.
Yes, it is.
What problem do you solve? Write this down. I will always say it over and over again. What problem do you solve?
Shanika, happy Thanksgiving.
Right? What problem do you solve? What desire do you create? And what solution do you provide? These are core 3 questions. And based on that, you are going to really take yourself, Ami, to the place where you are asking yourself, what are people searching on Google? What are they typing up, Sharon? What are the problems that they're looking to solve? Because that's where you want to position your book, not just as a book written, but you want to position your book as a bestseller. So when you are buying up real estate, you are looking at the title of your book based on what people are searching for. And then you reverse engineer, because based on the keyword searches, there are a series of questions to that one problem. And Sharon, that's how you're going to build out your chapter, by answering those questions to that topic statement that you have stated to the front of your book. All right?
That's right. So a great way to actually see the breakdown of this is by going to our first session. If you didn't get the recording, if you're not in our private accountability group, we'll be more than happy to send that to you. Just send us a message, a DM, and we'll be able to unpack that for you as we did yesterday during our training. The next area of the forward framework, 8 essential strategies to move you from blank page to published book, is, drumroll, content creation. Now, this is where it gets juicy, because now you have seen how to develop the book outline, the skeleton, the framework, the roadmap. Now you have to add meat, Sharon, to those bones. And you do that by storytelling. Storytelling. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Storytelling is what's going to help your message come alive for the readers. So whenever we're doing a deep dive, you could probably chime in, because you've heard me say it over and over and over again. What lessons did you learn from all of your life experience? Because we can say that easily, right? We can say, I learned how to be resilient. I learned how to be fearless. I learned how to put myself first. However, let us know a little bit more of your hell before that hallelujah.
Come on, now, type that in the chat. People need to know about your hell before your hallelujah.
Because sometimes as coaches, we get so passionate.
I see Sharon like, oh, come on now. Come on now. People need to know a little bit about your hell before we get to the hallelujah. Because we're trained to talk straight to the hallelujah, right? We put all of the mess, the clutter, the inertia, all the way to the back closet. I know some of you will clean up for Thanksgiving, right? And you didn't want anybody to know about your hell, so you stuff stuff under the bed, you throw things into the closet, and like, wow, your place looks so nice, right? But they didn't know the hell that you went through just to put that dinner together. But I want you to know, when you are crafting that message, it is key, it is so key in telling that story, because when you speak about that hell, when you speak about that inertia and the uncertainty, you are calling tribe together. You are making a clarion call to people who now see themselves in you.
That's right.
Now, for those of you who were part of our last conference, you would hear us talk about your story matters. But we tell all our clients, no one cares about your story if you're not teaching a lesson.
So they go hand in hand.
So write that down. They don't care about your story if you're not teaching a lesson. Now the reverse applies. They don't care about the lesson if you're not teaching a story.
That's right.
Because when you tell the story, people begin to self-identify. They see themselves in you. What takes them over to care about the lesson is 2 things. Your story brings humanity to you. That's number 1. And number 2, what your story does, it allows people to see themselves in you, but you're telling your story in the context you're on the other side of your story. So the lesson positions you now as a teacher, as a coach, as a leader. So many people, they either don't care about your story, or they say, I'm glad it's you and not me, right? And they silently deselect themselves from the experience, but privately they know they've gone through it, right? They know that there is some sliver, some where they place where they can identify themselves. But because you tell your story in such a strategic way and you position yourself as a teacher, they're like, man, I see myself in Sharon. I see myself in Ida. I see myself not just in them, but I can see myself being taught by them,
and
being led by them.
That's right.
Come on, somebody. And that's where you now position your book not just as a statement, but you're turning your book into a business. You are calling people into a value exchange and they don't even know it.
I love that. And that's why they're going to choose you as opposed to other people
Come on,
in your field.
somebody type in the chat, juicy, juicy.
It is like, that's so true in Wale. Yes, it is absolutely true because you have to understand that in order to stand out in the marketplace, you need to be transparent, right? That which is most personal is also most general. Meaning those things that you're trying to protect. Oh, you don't want people to know that you've been through bankruptcy. You don't want folks to really know that your husband, your ex-husband was abusive. You don't really want people to know that you've been through these ugly scars. But guess what? Your scar is a proof that God does heal wounds. And the reason why they will choose you is because you are vulnerable enough to say, listen, I'm not perfect, but I am perfectly equipped to serve you. We got to remind ourselves of that. And so when we're doing that in our book, Army, we want to use what we call compelling statements that will help you to really churn the bowl of getting that juicy flavor of transparency out to your audience.
All right.
So some of those flavors will include, or sentence stems, something like this. The time I was most fearful was, and this is what we call in our champions to give us an example, right? So those of you who are in our accountability group, you've been waiting for this moment because we are going to absolutely put you in the hot seat to be able to share and potentially get a great round of applause or get some strategies on how we can up-level it, right? So who's ready to complete this sentence with me? The greatest lesson that the time I was most fearful was...
All right, let's see. And you could type it in the chat. You don't have to come on screen, but you could type that in the chat. And for those of you who are in the Zoom call, you could type that. So Sharon, you drop that in the message. Armin, drop it in the message. The question that we're asking is the time that I was most fearful was. Time I was most fearful was, ... Fill that in. What does that look like for you? The next question that we're going to ask.
Yep, the next question that we're going to ask is...
My biggest breakthrough came when? My biggest breakthrough came when? That's the next sentence step. My biggest breakthrough came when? So write that down. And you would see in the homework, we have about 5 of those questions. So you could always just play around with it. So we're just going to take those 2 examples. The first example is... The time
where I was most fearful was...
And then my biggest breakthrough came when? My biggest breakthrough came when?
So right? Army, I see you thinking. I see those thought... bubbles popping out, pop, 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 pop. So you have something good to share with us? Are you ready? You can answer either question. You'll probably have to unmute your mic so that we can put you, so everybody else can hear you.
All right, so we have our first, so Sharon says.
Would you like to speak it, Sharon? We would love to hear your voice. She's typing.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Sharon.
So the time that I was most fearful was when I checked myself into a mental health institute.
Very, very powerful. And you see, without us even knowing all of what happened to Sharon or what transpired, we already feel connected. because that's a very vulnerable thing to say. And now we're drawn in. Now we want to know more. Type in the chat if you want to know more, right? You want to know what brought such a powerful, strong woman. I mean, y'all seeing Sharon dipped out in a cut with her hat on, but let me tell you, this woman is a phenom. She has won world championships for bodybuilding. I mean, she is a powerhouse woman, right?
Chiseled out.
Chiseled out. Got 6 packs for days. And so when you look at the blessing of who she is and how tall she stands in the world, and then understand that there was a time when she had to check herself into a mental facility, you're immediately drawn, because that which is most personal, that's a personal story for her, is also most general. Who hasn't felt a point of feeling breakdown? Who hasn't been to the point where they felt like they couldn't move on with their lives in some capacity or their business?
And then, Sharon, I would support you in considering what are the connecting statements to such a story as Chantal is demonstrating. So the first thing is, when you identify the story, you are now, the next step you want to create is unpacking that story.
And that moves us into page 5 in our workbook, where we're talking about giving your story texture. So thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing that example of your moment where you felt most fearful. And now we're going to give that story, or even other stories, more texture. We don't necessarily have to use that example. However, let's go ahead and give that some texture.
All right, so let's use the same example that Sharon shared with us. So we have the context of the sentence stem for the story, that personal account. Another sentence stem that unpacks that will help you to give texture to that story. Let's consider this: the thought in my head swirled like, right? So she's now going to be, just like many of us, she's going to unpack what was her state of mind. You know, what were you saying to yourself? What was being said to you when no one was around, right? The internal thoughts, the emotions. And this is where you want to use similes and metaphors, right? My head shook like a 6.9 Richter scale earthquake. Everything was moving, but nothing was shaking, right? So it's like I was in my own mental earthquake. The only thing that was shaking was my mind. Yet everything around me was still. And I wondered why. Right? So this is where you want to really unpack, because you want to bring people into that space with you, and you're taking them into that journey. You know, the steps that you took towards that mental institute. Because what's very key is that just what you have shared, Sharon, there is an entire real estate that you can take up, where we talk about the positive discussion, or the discussion that needs to be taken about mental health, especially amongst the African American community, right? You know, we see seeking mental health as a taboo, or having mental well-being as something that is not to be focused on, right? And there are times in our lives, there are things in our lives that we think is not important. We try to support it or treat with it on our own. We were doing a live stream, and one of the statements we made about support is not because you have company means you have support. Come on, somebody. Am I talking this? Not because you have company means you have support. And it's very, very critical to differentiate the two. So I'm just getting chills, just unpacking that moment, Sharon. Come on now, right? Because the mere fact, because I could guarantee that Sharon would have had someone in her life, or someone's in her life, right? Yet still, she felt very alone and still needed to seek support way outside her social circle, her family circle, her spiritual circle, her business circle, right? Not only is she cut and ripped, right? She is a world-class hairdresser, right? So I'm sure there are many, many people that she, who she knows from in her salon that she could have talked to or called. Yet still, she understood the difference between company and still and support.
That's
And
right.
sometimes company does not mean support. So this is really, really powerful.
Joselle is here. She is fired up because she just submitted one of her very important chapters for her future best-selling book, I should say.
Woo!
Welcome, Joselle. Welcome to those of you who are joining us live in our other groups as well. We're so excited to have you, and I really hope that you are gaining value, because what's knowledge and a breakthrough for one person is potentially a breakthrough for you as well. So thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing it. And now we're just at time. And so I want to make sure that we are able to give you the steps that you need to move from blank page to published book. Session 1 was yesterday, where we talked about repurposing your content. Session 2, we broke that down even further so that you could actually map out the framework from your book. And then we even gave you some more. We talked about developing content, so adding texture and storytelling so that your book stands out very powerfully to your reader.
Definitely. I want to congratulate all of you for playing full out. Irene, and see your message here about your siblings, and your biggest breakthroughs when I finally came to accept being a firstborn daughter wasn't a punishment, but a gift.
Wow.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to thank all of you for playing full out, being part of this accountability journey. We're going to have our next session, our third homework session.
I'm actually pulling it up. It's going to be tomorrow.
All right, tomorrow.
And we're going to be talking about something very, very cool. It's called our title tower technique. The 3 T's, our title tower technique. And that's how you can actually develop your title. Ian was just asking me about that. She's like, Chantal, I want to know, when are we going to develop the title for our book? Now, Ida, we're going to talk about that now. So let's hop on tomorrow. We'll be meeting here tomorrow. Is Friday, and just pulling it up. Yep, tomorrow we'll be meeting at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Good times, guys. So as we go, I want to encourage you to continue to be in momentum. If you haven't heard about our upcoming, riveting conference on December the
8th. It's actually a weekday. I think it's a Tuesday.
Yes, so December the 8th. So you can go to girlshareyourstory.com. girlshareyourstory.com. That's our live conference we're gonna have. It's free, so it's just a space for us to continuously pour into the dream, into the vision.
And we're going to be getting some powerful things done. It's a message mastery experience. So we have the likes of Doreen Rainey. She is the founder of the Radical Success Academy. We have the lovely, the powerful Lisa Nichols, who will be giving us some incredible things to kick off our coaching businesses on the right foot into 2021.
Come on, guys.
So this is going to be a powerful session. If you have not register. If you have not shared it, share the information with another sister who you know has a powerful story to share with the world.
That's right, guys. So I'm sure you're picking up that we are just moving forward, all right? Turkey is not stopping us. Christmas isn't stopping us. We got to understand that purpose is non-negotiable. So we look forward to the conversation, to the journey, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to continue the process of moving from blank page to published book. Have a good day, guys. Cheers.
Bye-bye.